and I don't want to give many caveats either about what I talk about, but just feeling like you don't get it or you don't understand, or questioning what your best interest may be at a time. That's just the reality of what I've dealt with and feeling. And I remember I told somebody, not necessarily just based around marriage, but just being a man, I said, I see how people stress themselves into like heart attacks and, making very poor, like I stress ate for a couple weeks because I didn't know how to fully process some things in my life, or it was so stressful to me at a time that maybe I did know some way of how to process it, but I didn't care to. I'll say it that way. So, and I didn't realize that I was doing it except for until after 4 or 5 days of doing it. And I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Am I stress eating? And top of the morning, the afternoon, and the evening to you. It's your boy AntMoe, coming live and direct from the studio of The Mind of a Man. And welcome to the Mind of a Man podcast, where we give you a holistic peek inside of the mind of a kingdom man. It's a 3-tiered approach to men's health: mind, body, and soul. Man, the end result is we want to build a community of men who are whole, healthy, and healed. The biggest takeaway that I want you to understand before we go any further is this is a self-improvement platform. I stand before you a man who loves God, a man who loves God, who wants to live in a way that is right before him, and that I can leave a legacy. But at the same time, I'm a human and I'm flawed and, all of those things. So I want to lead with that, right? And if you want a platform that is about accountability, I struggle with that word a little bit. Accountability, integrity, and transparency, this is the platform for you. And so with that being said, welcome to another week, man. I actually had my notes out because I thought I was going to need it to make sure I hit all those points, but turns out I didn't need it. So with that being said, let's move on to the next topic at hand. So I want to always give you guys exactly what it is that we'll be talking about, right? And let me get a little comfortable in my chair, in my seat, on my couch. You know what I'm talking about? That's a little bit better. So this one will be dealing with emotions. And I think I will title it "Emotions Make You Cry Sometimes." And we will be dealing with the reality of the fact that most men run away from their emotions, albeit because of stigma from society, whether that be, women who may treat you a certain way based off of you dealing with those said emotions, or your friends. It don't matter. And I said that last part because when I went to go pick up my 15-year-old, my little lovely 15-year-old, Samaya, I was talking to my ex-brother-in-laws, which we like family still regardless, because I've been knowing these people since I was like 16, 17 years old. So everybody is still family to me. He asked me, the oldest, Dries, he said, "Hey man, you still got your podcast?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, what do you talk about?" And I didn't want to give him the normal spiel. I tried to simplify it, but I eventually said something to the effect of, I believe that men are misrepresented in culture. My ex-wife essentially rolls her eyes. And I'm like, "What you roll your eyes for?" And it turned into this whole debate. And anybody who knows my ex-wife, she's a very analytical person. She's a very numbers don't lie person. And so if it's something that she presents that numbers show or studies prove, then your original thought on it basically holds no merit. So we got into this dialogue, and she wanted me to give these direct correlations to men being misrepresented. And her argument was men misrepresent themselves. And I think by and large, what I didn't realize at the time, but that I later kind of wrestled with and came to the conclusion of, is it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if it's women or men. By and large, the fact that it's my party, I can cry if I want to, relates to women. A man could never say anything like that. And I'm not saying that a man should be able to say anything like that, but it's just the fact that I remember one of my fondest memories being, not my fondest, but I remember being 7 years old, 6, 7 years old, maybe younger, I don't know, 5, 6, anywhere between 5 and 7. And one of my aunties hurt my feelings. I did not know how to process it, but it hurt. And I remember I ran upstairs, took these little bitty tweezers, put them to my head like I was going to do something crazy. I was acting like skin folk. I mean, you know, people that ain't skin folk. But anyway, I was acting away. And my grandmother came upstairs and consoled me. And I may have told this story before, but never from the standpoint of what it taught me about emotions or how to deal with them as a young man. Being younger, I was a very emotional kid. I remember playing football and they weren't giving me the ball, and I sat down and cried about it. It is what it is. Fight me. Like, if you're going to make fun of me, fight me. But I sat down and I cried about it. And I remember my friends that I was playing with being frustrated that I was emotional about it, and then they force-fed me the ball to make me not yield the fruit of crying again or feeling emotional about it, or being around what you could consider manly men in my family, like my cousin or my uncle, and seeing how they treated people who were the same sex or gender that displayed emotion. It really taught me to button it up, to not, the world is not going to receive who I am, essentially, or the way that I express myself. The end result at a time was that I became a very angry individual. Like, I felt the way to express myself was to be incredibly blunt and incredibly open and overly honest with people, no matter how it made them feel. Now, you could say that that's your fault. That ain't whatever. Y'all probably heard it 1,000 times. I didn't have a father, and my mother was in prison for a lot of my life. So I had to figure stuff out a lot of the time. No excuse. It just is what it is, right? That's just the reality that I've kind of wrestled with. But for a long time, I've had to hide the fact that in certain regards, I have been a rather emotional person. I've done irate things out of emotionality. I remember when me and my ex-wife were dating in high school, I called her phone about 60 times in a row out of sheer emotion. And I remember her cousin talked to me on the phone after I finally talked to her. After I finally talked to my girlfriend, her cousin got on the phone and she said, "Hey, I just wanted to ask you a question." She said, "Why did you do that?" She was like, "I understand, whatever. I ain't mad. She said, "But I just want to know why you called that many times." Relationships were a thing that gave me an identity that I was missing because I had my siblings and I had my grandmother, but most kids, it's why adopted children still want to find out who their parents are at some point, because they want to know where they came from, right? I began to drink at a very young age, like 10, 12, 14, because when I was younger, my auntie told me, "You're going to be a drunk or you're going to drink like your mom and your dad did." So in my young mind, if I drink, it'll kind of give me a sense of what I think my identity is. So at a very young age, at 8 years old, I remember knowing that I wanted a family, or, I always was like looking for attention or love from the opposite sex, right? which kind of sent me through a range of emotions. So something actually happened, and if this person actually sees it, they'll know what I'm talking about. But something happened to a friend of mine, and I remember it being something that he kind of had no control over. Something happened to him, and he blamed himself. And I checked on him, and I remember he kind of pushed it off like, everything cool, I'm moving on. And it made me think to myself, as men, we've been forced to live in a reality that I don't think God ever designed us to walk in. You can't tell me that since I'm a man, I don't deserve the right to express emotion, and because you're a woman, you have all the right in the world to express emotion. I believe that some of the problems are, as a boy, even if it's from a mother, a lot of the times in a I ain't gonna say a matriarchal society, but a patriarchal household where a father is actually present, it's rare that you're able to express your emotions. They tell you to zip it up, button it up, be strong. You're a boy. You don't cry like girls. Keep it bottled up, and then wonder why we grow up and are angry as hell. Like, it really does make a lot of sense to me why men are so aggressive and angry. Like, not aggressive and angry, because I do think men are aggressive and angry. I think it's because we're protectors. We're hunters. We are all of those things. But I think there's a over aggression and over, anger thing, because you've never learned a way to healthily channel your emotions as a man. One of the things that my ex-wife said is that studies show that men are more emotional than women. Now, I gotta still disagree with that, mainly in part because if we go to a text like the Bible, which always wins out, like, I don't care what text you bring, what book you read, what study you have, when the Bible refers to a woman being a weaker vessel, if you don't want to use the idea of emotionality being the thing that makes you a weaker vessel, then what else is it? Physically, it can only be a few things. Because I'm not saying women aren't smart, or that women aren't smarter than men or anything like that, or smart as men, more or capable as a man could be. But by and large, you can't tell me that most women aren't physically as capable as a man and don't easily or more readily express emotion or even process emotion better or more frequently than a man. Not here to debate it. If you want to, I welcome it, but I'm just saying. So when it talks about the woman being the weaker vessel, what is the Bible referring to? Even if you don't believe it's this great book of instruction for believers and you just think it's a book about knowledge. Okay, well then even if you take that approach, you would have to break down what that means to me. Okay. So going back to my friend, it made me think introspectively, right? That most men, think about it. We have men who kill themselves because they don't have a healthy outlet. And shout out to Jason Wilson, who, has wrote a couple books, and he's the one who, if you look on social media, bald head guy, beard, and he teaches the kids. He's like wrestling with them and jaking them around. Like, he's teaching them like martial arts, and he's teaching them about life, but he's teaching them through certain mediums. And then he usually has the dad put the son on his back and he does the push-ups and things of that nature. Super dope platform and super dope dude. But his platform, he deals with a lot of that. He talks about a friend of his that had a heart attack at a very young age because he didn't know it, or did he kill himself? He either died from a heart attack. I believe he died from a heart attack. Forgive me, Jason, if you see this and I'm saying it wrong, but I believe that it was one of two things. He either died from a heart attack or he committed suicide because he didn't know how to process things, and he ended up passing away. And I'll be honest, thinking about marriage, thinking about the society and culture that we live in, the things that I want to accomplish, and even if you don't believe in listening to society by and large, you would be hard pressed not to believe that it has an effect on us. You look at social media and you see highlights. You see people with money. You see people with cars. You see people with jewelry. You see people with these women who look a certain way. Even if it's just subconsciously and not something that you willingly want to take in, it's something that you take in. And I've experienced the pressure of being 30 and not having a clue, one iota, of what I was going to do with myself, or just the struggles of marriage and the miscommunication and just being honest here. This is what I do on this platform. There's nothing I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say to my wife, or just I'm not down talking. I'm just being honest here. And I don't want to give many caveats either about what I talk about, but just feeling like you don't get it or you don't understand, or questioning what your best interest may be at a time. That's just the reality of what I've dealt with and feeling. And I remember I told somebody, not necessarily just based around marriage, but just being a man, I said, I see how people stress themselves into like heart attacks and, making very poor, like I stress ate for for a couple weeks because I didn't know how to fully process some things in my life, or it was so stressful to me at a time that maybe I did know some way of how to process it, but I didn't care to. I'll say it that way. So, and I didn't realize that I was doing it except for until after 4 or 5 days of doing it. And I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Am I stress eating? And so, man, it's a lot to, don't get me wrong. Women deal with a lot. I'm not trying to down talk women here or act like we're superior or anything like that. Even if in some arenas it is true, and when I say superior, I don't mean like we lord over you. I mean like there's a lot that a man is expected to do. I'm expected in most faith households to be a priest, a provider, and a protector, no matter what you do. No matter what you bring to the table, no matter what you don't bring to the table, no matter how you feel, no matter how you see life, no matter if you want to do certain things or not do certain things, I'm expected to still be a leader, keep my cool, pay bills, spiritually set the tone, and make sure that you feel safe in our own home when we go out into the world. That's just a given. There's no woman who's going to tell you that she has that responsibility in a relationship with a male. And if she does, I don't know what y'all got going, fam. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I guess I am wanting to know from listeners and watchers alike, whether you're on, whether you're streaming it or whether you're on YouTube, how do you deal with emotion? If you're a man, and if you're a woman, what are your thoughts on what I've said thus far? I could talk forever, respectfully, but I'm not. I do want to get on here. I want to get thoughts out of my head, from things that I see and I process, because I feel like it's getting worse in society. There's a lot of pressure to have the money and to be a certain leader, I won't say be a certain leader, be a certain type of man, like I said earlier, when I think about what my ex-wife said, I thought to myself this: all right, I'll admit, and not saying I fully believe this, but I'm saying just devil's advocate's sake. Okay, let's say that I admit that I am by and large more emotional than a woman in general. Would a woman be willing to admit that you're more prideful than a man? Because what I can say is that when it comes to emotionality, when I was married the first time, there were certain arenas where I wouldn't dare show emotionality, because wherever we were at in our relationship or things that were said between both of us, you know what I'm saying? I'm not a victim. Set the stage for it not to feel like a safe place to express yourself in a healthy way. All water under the bridge at this point, but there was a lot of things, being young, married with a child, being a believer, not having a healthy support system. I didn't feel like I had many places to run, where most men believe that their wife should be a safe place, right? So, it's just something to think about when you talk about responsibility. If I have to be priest, provider, protector, what does that mean for me if I need somewhere to bleed? For men who have not joined themselves to a spouse who can be an emotional support, if they don't understand it because they're not a man and they haven't experienced certain things, or their view of what a man should be is not healthy, what does that mean for the dialogue and interaction between a man and a woman? That was another thing that I've talked about in the past with friends, is the fact that you can't raise this man to be strong and figure it out on all accounts, and then this person can express themselves freely whenever. It is going to be a get out of jail free ticket for most women. If you cry, if you put your head down, since you were young, you've been embraced, you've been accepted, you've been told that it's okay, let it out. When those people grow up, even if it's not a bad thing for a woman, it's not a good thing for a man. So when you're married to somebody and and they're encouraging you to communicate with them and express yourself, most men aren't able to articulate on that type of level. Which, if we want to go down that rabbit hole, let's bring sex into it. If for a man, a way that he feels a connection to a woman is through sex, but we don't understand love languages or how to express certain things. Let's say a woman is words of affirmation and you don't know how to provide that properly, then you're going to have a big issue in your relationship, let alone sexually. Most men don't know much, but they know they want sex. Most women don't know much, but they know they want a connection. If you spent your life reading books and novels that talk about it and watching movies like The Notebook that cater to it, and a man is G.I. Joes and blood, guts, and gore, we got two total different ways of articulating what we want from each other. And that's why counseling and stuff like that is necessary and important. So once again, do I make a good point? Do you understand where I'm coming from? Comment below and let me know. Go leave a review on Apple Podcasts, wherever, but let me know if I'm tripping or not, because these are things to me that are simple. Shout out to Jay Reed. He sent me a video, and Jay Reed always send me stuff, and and hope you're healing up great. I just talked to you the other day. He always sends me videos and asks me for my point of view, which I appreciate. But he sent me a video of Chrissy and We Fly, No Lie, No It Bowling, Jim Jones. And Jim Jones is sitting in front of Chrissy and he is crying and he is apologizing and he is articulating to the best of his ability what he sees as the issue and how he wants to do better. Somewhere the message got lost in the translation. And I think I know where the translation issue came from. And because I'm going to tell you what I pretty much said to Jay Reed. But it seemed like what happens in relationships, right, is when men feel there's a void, they may say something, right? But most women may not receive the message because, let's be honest, if we look at relationships, most women think relationships are about them. And that's not even what I think. I'm like, you can tell me about how birthdays go, how Mother's Day go, how Valentine's Day go, how Christmas go. Just let me know how, how mothers, when they have babies, get months off and men are expected to go back to work in 3 days like somebody died and you're just supposed to pick up and keep going, as if there aren't men out here who want to spend time with their family and their children when they're born and help out. So this is just my belief and understanding of life and how I've seen it. It seems like women a lot of the times believe relationships are about them. So if you articulate something, they won't sometimes, and this isn't an indictment on all women, but sometimes most of them won't receive it. So what will a man do? What is the next step for a man who feel like he's articulated himself in some type of way to get to an understanding, whether that's more sex, whether that's better communication, whether that's bills need to be allocated a certain way? What is a man going to do next? I know somebody out here already knows. He's going to go seek validation somewhere else. In him seeking validation somewhere else, it might be an emotional relationship. It might be a sexual relationship. Here's another thing. Hopefully I don't lose my train of thought, but most men will get way more out of a sexual relationship with a woman than a woman would get out of a sexual relationship with a man. Most of the time, women will have the emotional connection to a man through conversation, through spending time together, that the sex isn't even a part of what was important to them. It was the connection emotionally. For most men, that validation will come through intercourse. Going back to my original point about this how we process emotions. Not saying that it makes us less emotional, but it's like it takes far less for a woman. A woman will give her body to you out of a result of the emotional connection. A man will give his body to you out of the result, will give his emotion to you out of the result of the physical expression. So, in relationship, when that happens, or if it continues to happen over and over again, a man, or rather not a man, but rather a woman, what does she do in that situation? If a man keeps cheating on you, but you won't receive the message, even if it's something like I want more sex or whatever it may be, I think what happened is Chrissy was pretty much telling him, listen, I don't want to marry you for these reasons. I hear what you're saying, but I need to see what you're saying. And he didn't understand what he could show her in that moment to prove that he was serious about what he was doing. By and large, my point is this. Women get to a point where words only can go so far. They need action to show. Don't tell me I'm safe. Show me I'm safe. For a man, it's the opposite. Like, well, I think both need the action, of course. But I think for a woman, they are used to being the ones who are getting cheated on. Even if physically, a woman most of the time is used to getting cheated on. So they get to a point where it's like, well, what are you going to do? Like, and I think that's where the message gets lost in the translation. Deep down, Jim Jones wants to love his wife, wants to love his lady. He wants to do right by her, and he wants to prove it. But if in that moment he expresses himself and he's crying snot, boogers, tears, and she's like, nigga, I'm not trying to hear this, then that just feels like another blow to me as a man. So what happens? Hopefully this didn't happen, but typically the cycle continues until it ends horribly. So, I don't know, man. I don't think I'm too far off on it. I do believe that, you know, by and large, men run away from their emotions. And we back, man. So, peep game. I believe that by and large, men want to express themselves. And I believe that it is important to most men that they are understood. But it takes a lot of work because society is backwards. It's just no other way to put it. Society is deathly backwards. So my question is, what is the solution? Like I told y'all from the beginning, I don't have all the answers, but I have all the questions. Shout out to Darius Love Hall, Love Jones, or shout out to me. You know, I am the real life Darius Love Hall. You know what I'm saying? So, no, but seriously, that's a question that I have. What is the solution to this? You know, because you can go to counseling all day long. You can learn to articulate yourself better. But I also believe that it is important for women to want to be a part of the solution as well. And letting a man articulate himself. Do you agree with that? Like, do you believe that men have made it harder? I mean, that's why fathers are definitely important to most dynamics. It's hey, I know Father's Day, all y'all want to do is give us the mitt with the paint hand that you put on there, best cook in the world. And I'm like, fam, I don't even grill. And I know you want to give me that little weak tie. I like nice stuff too. You know what I'm saying? And I think those expressions, even those expressions of fatherhood, still cheapen who we are. Because most men don't grill, and by the time they do, they wearing linen and got open toe sandals on. So if I'm been a father since I was 19 years old, like don't what am I gonna do with that? I promise you, I'm from the city and I watch people barbecue, but I didn't care about the process, fam. I just wanted to eat. But to reduce me to drill bits and weak ties when diamonds are forever, every kiss begins with K, show your mom, it's like it's almost understood that being a mother is more important than being a father in society, based off even how you decide to give gifts or some coffee mug or something like that. I don't know, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think. But man, I won't belabor the point or be before you long. You know, a lot of the times, man, I have a thought or a process that I see from culture in the world. That's why I believe platforms like this never get old, because the platform evolves as I evolve, as society evolves. Like, I see one thing happen or something happen to one of my partners and it literally becomes a topic because it's literally something that we're all dealing with, will deal with, or have dealt with in the past. And so I definitely want you guys to hop in the comment section and let me know what your thought process are about emotions between men and women. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Tell me why. I will put a poll up on Spotify that you can kind of, give your thought on it or whatever. And if you guys have any topics, from a male perspective or that a female will want from a male perspective, then please, inbox me on Instagram at I am AntMoe, or on Twitter, Mind of a Man Pod. And make sure that you follow, that you like, that you share, that you subscribe. Please, it don't take a lot. If you comment in the live chat, please go to the main feed on YouTube and comment on it. When you like it, it puts it before more people. I appreciate those who rock. I'm not tripping on nobody who don't want to give me the time of day, who don't like my delivery, who don't want to support. I don't care. It's too many people that do love me and do want to support. Shout out to my Aunt Kat. Now, can I just stop here for a second and say shout out to my Aunt Kat, man. She is a woman who always has believed in me. And she still tells me I'm the one. You gonna do something dope. You gonna do something big. You gonna do something great. And I just want to publicly say that since the passing of my grandmother, you have been one of the greatest representations of love and support that I could ever have. Apparently I've ran out of time on my camera, and that's fine. Hopefully what I've got on my phone is still recording, and I will keep it going. Otherwise, it's cool. Ain't no big deal. I'm finna end this joint. After all, man, what do I know? You know what I'm saying? I'm just a little boy from Fort Worth, Texas with a lot of perspective, man. Life is hard enough, so please don't just live elevated. Until next time, I love you. May the Lord keep you. I'll see you at the conference. Good night. Selah. Peace.